Hello and welcome to the Philippines. I continue to get comments, questions, emails about restrictions and requirements about traveling to the Philippines. So this video is just to go back over the official guidelines for vaccinated people to travel to the Philippines, as well as unvaccinated people who are now being allowed to travel to the Philippines. So let's get into it. So jumping over to Facebook, advisory revised guidelines per IATF resolution number 2, series of 2022, dated October 4th, 2022. Requirements. Filipinos and foreign nationals shall comply with the following requirements. If you are fully vaccinated, you possess any acceptable proof of vaccination from the World Health Organization, international certificates of vaccination and prophylaxis, a VaxCert PH, a national, state, manual, or digital certificates of the foreign government, or other proofs of vaccination. Now, this is what's important to many of you: unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, or whose vaccination status cannot be independently validated. If you're 15 years old or older, present a remotely supervised or laboratory-based rapid antigen negative test, which means you cannot do the home test. That will not be valid. So if you're unvaccinated, partially unvaccinated, or your vaccination status cannot be independently validated, you need to present a negative rapid antigen negative test administered and certified by healthcare professional in a healthcare facility, laboratory, clinic, pharmacy, or any other similar establishment, taken within 24 hours prior to departure from the country of origin, first portion of embarkation, excluding layovers, provided the passenger has not left the airport premises or was not admitted into the transit country. Now, that I can see where that could be difficult to do, because 24 hours isn't very much time, and I suspect that the departing airports in many countries no longer have on-site rapid antigen testing facilities. So you would have to track one down so that you could get it done within 24 hours before your flight. B2, there's another option for 15 years and older who failed to present a negative pre-departure under item B1 up here. You don't have a negative antigen test. Then when you arrive in the Philippines, you will need to undergo a laboratory-based rapid antigen negative test administered and certified by healthcare professionals in a healthcare facility, laboratory, clinic, pharmacy, or any other similar establishment, taken upon arrival at the airport. Now, if you arrive in Manila, that could be one place. If you arrive in Cebu City, that could be another place. I think they have international flights going into Angeles City now. And we have a number of other international airports, and I don't know if they're set up to do that or not. They may send you to a nearby clinic. Anyway, going on to the next step here. Supplementary conditions for unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, and whose vaccination status cannot be independently validated. For accompanied minors below 15 years of age who are not vaccinated, follow the vaccine protocols of their parents or an accompanying adult guardian traveling with them. So get a negative antigen test. I think that's what that says. Or before you leave or after you arrive. For unaccompanied minors below 15 years of age who are not vaccinated, follow the protocols under B1 and B2. So there again, you would need to get a a negative rapid antigen test 24 hours before flying, or have it done when you arrive in the Philippines. Additional requirements for foreign nationals. Your passport needs to be valid for at least 6 months at the time of entry. Good idea. Now, I got my passport with a 10-year limit um, before I left the USA, so I'm in good shape there. You need a valid visa, and this is applicable for those who are not entitled to a visa-free entry into the Philippines, as well as those with immigrant or non-immigrant status. Now, the great majority of countries are from visa-free entry, so you don't need to get a visa prior to arriving in the Philippines. When you arrive, you get a visa on arrival stamp in your passport. Although the immigration people have some discretion, and each airport, uh, if they feel there's some risk, some risk to the country, for whatever reason, they could reject your entry. Would be very, very, very rare that that would happen. And then C, for temporary visitors, tourists, you need a valid onward or return ticket to the port of origin, wherever you originally left from, or your next port of destination corresponding to their allowable period of stay. So in this case, 99.9% of the time, you need a ticket showing they're going to leave the Philippines, either back to your original destination or onward going someplace. And a lot of people buy a cheap ticket to some place like Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur, Thailand, something, and they probably don't use it. It's oftentimes called a throwaway ticket because you buy it and then you don't use it, but you have to show that in most cases, even to board the airplane at your the place that you first get on your airline. There are exemptions to this. Foreign spouses and or children of Filipino citizens who are traveling with them. Also, foreign Filipino citizens with balikbayan privileges under Republic Act 9174, including their spouse and or children who are traveling with them. Balikbayan basically is a Filipino who is, I think, technically a Filipino who's been out of the country, out of the Philippines for more than 1 year, technically. I don't know how closely they monitor that. And then the spouse. So if you are married to a Filipino who has been living outside of the Philippines, you can enter the Philippines on a balikbayan privilege, not really a visa. It's a 1 year privilege to stay in the Philippines. And quarantine, this will be interesting. If you wait to get a negative test when you enter, you have the option of flying to the Philippines and getting a rapid antigen test when you arrive here. There is that risk that you will get a positive test, which point you would be required to undergo, I think at the present time, it's a 5-day quarantine. On the fifth day, you're tested. If you're negative, you go about your business, your travel. Anyway, quarantine. Any inbound traveler, whether Filipino or foreign national, who shall test positive for COVID-19 through rapid antigen test shall be subjected to the latest prevailing quarantine and isolation protocols of the DOH, Department of Health. And they have still have a number of hotels designated as quarantine hotels, and you can choose from those hotels, but it has to be on that list. Definition of fully vaccinated as applied to this advisory, Philippines foreign nationals. One is deemed fully vaccinated against COVID-19 if they received the second dose in a 2-dose series or a single dose vaccine more than 14 days prior to the date and time of departure from the country of origin, port of embarkation. The airline responsibility. The airline is responsible for whether they let you fly or not, and you need to contact the airline that you plan to fly with and make sure that they understand what the rules are. Fraudulent and or unverified vaccine certification shall be liability of airline carriers. So if you get here and immigration says, "Oh no, your vaccine certification is not accurate, it's fraudulent or unverified," they're saying the airline has to pay for to send you back to where you came from. Existing guidelines for arriving officials and crew members shall still, unless you're a crew member. I don't know if I have any flight crew that subscribes here. Now, a little more information, my experience, my observations, and just talking with other expats and tourists who've come here. Um, your experience will be different depending upon the officials, the airports you fly out of, the airlines you fly with, the people you encounter along the way, the authorities, whether or not they understand what the rules are. I've had a couple of comments, emails saying that they had a hard time flying. Even one was flying back to the U.S. I think they got to Japan, and a U.S. citizen flying back to the U.S. with a stopover in Japan on Japanese Airlines, I guess. And the people at Japan Airlines insisted that he could not fly to the USA unless he was vaccinated. And after calling supervisors, a number of other people, he was allowed to go on because they were not up to date with the current information. And I think the same thing happened. I think he got into Vancouver Airport, and he had a similar issue there that they tried to deny him his flight back to the U.S. out of Vancouver, Canada. They didn't understand that he did not need to be vaccinated to fly back as a U.S. citizen to fly back to the U.S. Now, once you get to the Philippines, can you travel? What are restrictions and requirements as you travel? My experience, a couple months ago, I went to Dumaguete, and at no place, no establishment, no hotel, no ferry ever asked me for a vaccination card. I've had a number of other expats tell me that the ferry's going to Leyte stopped here maybe a month ago, probably at least, stopped asking for vaccination cards or any QR codes and that sort of thing. Um, there are some islands that have been strict, hanging on to those strict. I think Camigan Island, just on the north side of Mindanao, I was told by a Filipino group of Filipinos who went from Dumaguete to over to Camigan Island. Just they wanted to go for part of a day, and they were told, well, no, you can't go for part of a day. You need to have a hotel reservation, and and something else. They need to show their vaccination cards, I think, and so they had to reserve a hotel room just to be able to go over there to visit part of the day, and then they canceled their hotel room and returned back to Dumaguete. So a bit of a hassle there. I have heard that CDO, Cagayan de Oro, in on the north, a city on the north end of Mindanao as well. They the same group of people. They said they went there, and the malls were still asking for vaccine cards. This was probably a month ago. My experience here in Cebu City, the malls several months ago stopped asking. Many months ago stopped asking for vaccination cards. They would require you to wear a mask, but here in the last couple of weeks, I've gone into many malls, many stores, and including Ayala, SM, a couple malls downtown Cebu City, S&R, and I've asked, is a mask required, sir, to the security at the very front? And they said, it's optional, sir. It's up to you. And I was one of very few who were not wearing a mask, but so everybody's been conditioned. And it's difficult. I will admit that, you have to wear, yeah, I had to wear a mask sometimes, and 99% of the time, I would pull it down under my nose and breathe through my nose. Uh, and that's a because when I first started wearing masks originally when it was required, I found myself coughing. And common sense told me I'm breathing something in from this mask, the fibers from the mask or whatever. Something is causing me to cough when I didn't used to cough. And so I would breathe through my nose with the mask down. Very rarely would somebody insist I pull it up, and of course, after you pass that security, you pull it back down. If something is harming my health, I'm going to do what I can to alleviate that situation. But each day that I go out, I see, I would still say 70 to 80% of the people, depending on where you're at, you get out of the city, out of the main metropolitan area, into the provinces. Fewer and fewer people have been, many months even many months before they dropped the mask mandates. People in the provinces, many of the people had stopped wearing masks. Here in the city, it's more ingrained, I guess. I've asked many people in my walks, why are you wearing a mask? And it's just the norm now, sir. They don't have a good reason. And when I discussed, well, you're even in the hospital, I talked to many nurses, and I said, do you reuse the masks? Yes, 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 of course, we reuse the masks. They're too expensive. Do I want to eat rice today, or do I want to buy a new mask? And even I found that many of the doctors were not wearing medical grade masks. So anyway, the mask issue, there is there is information on the internet about various masks. I've worked as a supervisor in a number of different industries and management, and you wear special types of masks for special types of situations, and you can do that research. YouTube doesn't like those kind of discussions on their channel for whatever reason. If you're around dust, that's one kind of mask. If you're around certain chemicals, that's a different type of mask. If you are trying to stop bacteria, germs, viruses, that is a different type of mask. And another point I mentioned in a previous video, I've had a friend that flew to Boracay, one of the top rated, if not the top rated beach area in the world. Boracay, I have not been there yet, but he said he was not asked when he got on the airline, wasn't asked for a vaccination card or any other information, QR code or anything like that. When he arrived at his resorts, he was not asked, and also on the return trip back to Cebu was not asked for any of that thing. And he also said they took a few days trip, I think 3-day trip to Bohol. Same thing. He did not have any issues on the ferry, getting on a ferry without vaccine cards and or checking into resorts. Your experience could be different. So I'm not saying this is going to be the same all over. I've had people comment that they've been to malls and they said they didn't get they didn't get the notice yet. They're still requiring, and businesses can still require whatever they want to require. LGUs, local government units, each province, each city, each town can set up their own regulations, restrictions, requirements. So that is one issue. That is one issue, and still in traveling, is that you have to be careful. Anyway, thanks for, I just wanted to make sure everybody's clear on that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.